Coming to you from beyond the final frontier, it's Archaeodeath.
Hey, you, what is a hogback stone? You don't know? Have you ever been in a classroom where someone's asked you what a hogback is and you haven't known the answer? Have you ever woken up late at night thinking, what is a hogback, and you haven't got the answer? Have you ever been in a life and death situation that relied on you knowing what a hogback stone is and you didn't know the answer? Well, I have a solution for you, because all the information you need to survive in a world that will mock you, ridicule you, and simply laugh in your face if you don't know what a hogback stone is contained in this book, which is going cheap with Boydell Press. Early Medieval Stone Monuments, Materiality, Biography and Landscape, edited by myself, together with Joanne Curtin and Megan Gondek. This book contains the answers that you need to survive in the world of Viking Age archaeology. And in this little video I want to introduce you to the last of the chapters in the book, which is written by me, and it's called Hogbacks, the materiality of solid spaces. Sounds a bit intriguing. Well, it's very intriguing. I can't read it all out to you here, but I can give you a brief introduction to some of the key concepts that will equip you with that basic state-of-the-art understanding for in-the-field understanding and identification, recognition and survival in the world of Viking research, especially if you need to know what a hogback is. So I introduce in this article Hogbackstones, these northern British recumbent stone monuments that are intriguing and enigmatic because hardly any of them, in fact nearly almost all but one, have been found out of context, reused in later stone sculpture, in stone building work, therefore displaced from their original context. And I introduce and survey hogback stones, often called Viking hogbacks, including their evocative end beasts, these sort of grappling, biting beasts, some dragons, mostly though bears of different forms and shapes. These great bears, and sometimes small little bears, biting at the ends of this house-like or shrine-like structure, often with very complex decoration. And they've long intrigued scholars and been the focus of inquiry into the Christianization and settlement of the Vikings in northern Britain, areas where Viking Norse settlers, Hiberno-Norse settlers, were populated, took over various territories and occupied the land. So they're found on the east coast, particularly in North Yorkshire, and we find them up into central Scotland and have a few outliers heading up even into Orkney. We also find them on the west coast, on the Irish Sea Zone, in Lancashire and on the Wirral Peninsula. And they tend to be dated to the early 10th century, and they tend to be seen as evidence of these Norse insular interactions, the conversion of immigrant pagans to Christianity and their adoption of stone sculpture for the commemoration of their elites. But there's much more to it than that, as I explore in my chapter. And indeed, in the chapter I survey other research, produce a new distribution map showing you where you can find these monuments as they're traditionally understood. I make arguments that build on the work of Jim Lang, including the fact that I think they are actually part of composite monuments we've lost the other bits of, including in some cases small crosses. And I even suggest that they may have functioned not simply as individual grave markers, but perhaps marking the grave plots of families, of larger households, groups. And I particularly raise two issues. I talk about how hogbacks would have worked as skeuomorphic citations. And that's a very different idea from the traditional approach to hogbacks, which has regarded them very much as monuments that are skeuomorphs of one thing other only, perhaps shrines, perhaps halls, and often you'll see them soundbited as, oh, they're stone versions of a Viking hall. Well, I suggest it's more complicated than that, and actually the idea of the hogback is that it was drawing on a wide range of associations, materials big and small, playing with the ideas of scale and shape and drawing wood, leather, metal and other materials into a stone form. They would have originally been vividly painted, and therefore they would have served as a house or home for the soul of the dead, in a prominent location in an ecclesiastical landscape. Symbols of status, power, and perhaps myths and legends of origin, and claims to land and claims to authority. And so they through those citations to other materials, they were very powerful statements by those commemorating the dead. But I link that to a second idea, and the idea I have is one of solid spaces, that these hogbacks are playing with the idea of an accessible, mediated space that you can perceive but you can't get access to. And this is very much developing on the late antique idea of the saint's shrine, the idea that you can access in to get access to the remains of the dead. But here in these hogback stones, you're closed off. You can see that there's a structure, you can see that there's a protective beasts, you can apprehend and perhaps even touch the surface, but it's solid stone. So the materiality of the hogback is important. The choice of stone as a material is not arbitrary. It allows you to perceive an architectural canopy, a space in which the dead might be seen as residing, or beneath which they're being protected by, but you cannot access it. So they're all about protection and control and commemoration from that idea of control and protection of a solid space. So now you're equipped, now you're not open to ridicule, now you can hold your head up high as you waltz around northern Britain identifying these hogbacks and going, yes, I know all about them now because I read the chapter by Professor Howard Williams in this book. So consider me your saviour, if you like, in hogback research. Now, I'm not the only one that's addressed these monuments, and I'm being a bit deliberately silly in promoting it in that way. And there's some other really important work that's been done by a range of other scholars over 30, 40 years into these monuments, and most recently the work of others such as Jamie Barnes, Mark Hall, Victoria Thompson. So there's other people who've done ongoing research on these monuments. But I think my 2015 chapter is a good place to get yourself up to date. I've got further chapters on this topic that I've published, and further research I'm doing on these 10th, early 11th century recumbent stone monuments and how they work to commemorate the dead.
For relaxing times, make it Archaeodeath time.